Hi guys, Artiar here. So for this video is about legendary ability mon tier list from 3.3.7. For this video I invited Agni, which is the best free to play players, right? And then we also have GG Easy, which is our other content creator, Dislyte content creator. So I'll let them introduce them by themselves.
Hi, it's Agni again. He say I'm a best free to play player. I don't think I'm the best, but I'm a good player. Yeah.
GG.
Yo, what's up? I am GG Easy and I make content for Dislyte, and I'm also a degenerate sometimes. That's about it.
Okay, so this tier list we are based on just legendary Esper, and then we all in default there'll be R2 resonance, and then we'll consider the R6 one is like Camille or like Everett, the one that we can fuse them to until R6 for free, or we can get them to R6 for free, and then the rest will be consider like the Shimmers one, we'll consider them as a R0, so you don't have to afraid about the resonance question part. And then we'll go through one by one, and then we'll explain like why do we think they are not in the urgent of ability mod upgrade as well, so you can feel free to enjoy the video. Right, so the first one we'll be going through is Ife. So how do you guys think about Ife?
Yeah. As much as she's my favorite character, like, don't really want her. It's a huge waste.
No, maybe if you try R6ing her, maybe she's useful. Maybe someone can try that.
if I did say before, if I ever R6 my Ife, I will full like ability on her, and it's still there. I will do it, but only when I R6 her.
So
yeah,
I think we all agree on waste if we use ability mod on her.
Yeah.
Alright, then the next one, Lian. I know Lian is very active in PvP, then how about in PvE? Should we max her out?
I don't think so, because for early game I think she's useful, but for mid to late game I don't think she's that useful. For Falsetto Fantasy she hasn't seen much use, and she really only works above R2, so I don't think she's worth it. So maybe just above waste. Was that no rush? Yeah.
But how about in like tower content? Like maybe she will be like a lifesaver for because of the shield amount if you level up her S3.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, maybe for like the flow tower, because you can just run her as the soul healer, and that would be enough. Yeah, I think for the flow tower she's gonna be very good. So maybe I think decent.
I think decent. I think she also does see a bit of play in like Chronos and Endras.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Chronos and Endras for like players who don't have Ollie, for instance, or don't have a good Esper to speed Chronos. You can always bring Lian to keep your team alive, because she is basically a failsafe. So having her rotate her S3 as much as possible is also a good idea. Also for Endras, where you prioritize shields more than heals, her shield is pretty big.
Yeah.
And max level as well.
Do you think we should max S3 only, or should we increase S2 as well? Because S2 increase the healing amount as well.
I think S3 only.
S3 only. So put decent?
Yeah.
Okay. Then for the next one, Cang Ji. Then we are looking at Cang Ji R2. And I think Cang Ji is famous for his PvP. But I'm not really sure for the PvE, is it like really important to skill him up? Maybe for the Calamity Tower or other content? Any suggestion?
I use him a lot in Infinity Tower, when the stage has like immune to AP manipulation, because you can still at R2 you can still AP control the boss with Cang Ji, and he's also very good for the Inferno Tower as well.
AP control the boss, you mean like the
you swap the
swapping hit? I see. Yeah. How about
I think CJ, there is definitely no reason to need to level his ability mons for PvE content, but it's always a good to have, because his AP control, he's not there to mainly deal a lot of damage. He's there to mainly like AP control a lot. So definitely is a good option to level, but I wouldn't say it's worth your ability mons at all for PvE at least.
How about Gigi? Do you think, since you use him a lot in tower, like do you think his skill level matters a lot?
For Infinity Tower, it doesn't matter because you don't have any turn limit. But for the Inferno Tower, sometimes it could help the extra damage that he does because he does like 300% or 400% of his defense when max skilled up. So I think it's either decent or important if you are struggling for the Inferno Tower. If you're not struggling, then I think he's just decent.
I think it's decent as
Yeah,
well.
I think decent as well. Okay, the next one, Embla. So Embla R2, we're looking at Embla R2 and then, which is her most important resonance already. Then do you guys think her skill level is that important?
I personally think no.
Yeah, same.
No, like the
Actually,
S3 cooldown? No?
No, S3 cooldown and S2 cooldown is actually bad for her.
Bad?
S3
Yeah,
cooldown
sure.
is good, but the S2, if you max out the S2, it's worse for you.
If her S2 prioritizes someone that has a seed buff, for instance, right, then I would say it might be an option. But if right now her AI is literally just like S2, literally anyone.
Yeah.
So scaling up her S2, cycling her S2, it just doesn't spread the seeds enough. So I
Agree.
wouldn't recommend ever scaling her up actually.
So you don't really cares about the skill damage, so mainly from the seed burst.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So waste tier?
Yeah.
Or
Waste
no?
or no rush, because if you are using her for your defense break in Andras, or not Andras, the APAP, then you do need her S3 to be maxed out for it to be 4 turns. But there's so many comps for APAP that you don't really need to run her as your defense breaker, so I think it's a waste. Yeah, I think it's a waste.
I think it's a waste as well.
Okay. Waste. Alright, then Hyde, the one of the PvP Esper. Then in PvE, we used to use him as a APAP solo Esper, but how about now?
Yeah, I think it's a
Nah.
waste.
Waste.
It's a for sure waste.
For sure waste. Like
Yeah.
no other content, PvE content is using him.
Yeah, even the green tower, I don't even use him.
Oh.
Yeah. His entire kit just doesn't give enough, right, to
Yeah.
skill him up at all.
Okay. Next one, Clara, one of our best healer, which have AP push, cleanse, immunity, and recovery. What do you guys think the skill level? Is it important to increase the AP push amount and the CD reduction as well?
I let GG Easy take care of this first. I have my own thoughts about this.
Okay.
I think Clara is important because she's used for what's it called, the Desert Lands in the green one. So you do need the cooldown reduce, and I also use her in Sonica, and I think I use for all for Falsetto Fantasy, Sonica, Forbiter, and Dark Starlord. And if you are using her for APAP, if you can't really speed clear APAP, then that skill up will be very good for you. So I think she's important, I think.
Okay, Agni?
I think, personally at least, I think she is one of the must-max Espers.
Mass max? But
Yes.
her S1 doesn't matters a lot. The S1 increased damage, right? Not the healing, right?
Yeah, so I mean must-max when it comes
Oh,
to
that's
S3
clear.
for sure.
Uh-huh.
For sure, must-max because for Clara as a, I'm thinking about it as a like early game Esper, especially for people who are looking to start the game. Clara is one of the most powerful supports in the game, and getting her S3 max right is equivalent to just like getting your team the healing, getting your team the immunity, getting your team the AP push, especially at the start of like Dislyte where you don't have a lot of Espers to choose from. It's very good to invest your ability mons into Clara. And like what Gigi says, she sees use in a lot of content as well. I use her in Deso, I use her in Falsetto Fantasy also. I use her in Calamity Tower as well. So she is one of the Espers that skill ups is very, very good. 4 turn skill up, you put her on Ocean, she can cycle her S3 like super quickly. So
Okay, so the mass max tier today we are considering is like must max certain skill, not the full skill, is it?
I mean, full skill, most of the character skills,
Yeah, most of the
S1s
character-
are not great. So
So I think like the must skill is like a particular skill that you just really need to skill it up.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
what do you think, Artiar?
I think her S3 is a must to upgrade, or else it's like meaningless. So if we are considering must max is a certain skill base, I would agree Clara will go to must max because the S3 matters a lot, the healing amount and the cooldown. And that's
Actually,
what she
I
plays,
think,
right?
I think I'm also gonna change to must max because Clara is one of those espers that just requires 8, I think, ability mons instead of 12.
Yeah. Cause passive
correct,
doesn't
because-
upgrade.
Yeah, S2 doesn't upgrade at all. So it's actually very cheap for.
Yeah.
It's a very cheap option. If let's say you her S3 requires like what, 4 ability mons.
Mm-hmm.
So you just throw in 4 ability mons if you're lucky. You just waste, or not say waste, but you use 4 ability mons to get like an insane support S3 for your entire like future team. And she's being like we mentioned, she's been used in a lot of content right now. So
Yeah. Okay, agree. Okay, next one, Archibald. Personally, I don't have Archibald, so I can't comment much on him. So, do you guys have any experience with him?
I also don't have. So GG, this is yours.
I use him in like the. Actually, no, I don't use him in the green tower because I don't do the green tower anymore. I'm just waiting for Farrah, and I do use him in Infinity Tower a lot, and he's very good there. But I don't think he needs it because the thing with Infinity Tower is that your cooldowns don't really matter because you have unlimited turns, right? So if you have unlimited turns, you don't really need the cooldown of Archibald on his S3 to be lower. The reason why you want to give him the ability mons is mostly for his strip chance. I think it goes from 60% to 80%, so it's a little bit more reliable. So I think he's no rush because again he's only used for Infinity Tower and the Green Tower.
Mm-hmm.
And you only need his ability mons in the Green Tower, not so much for Infinity Tower. So it's
Okay.
no rush, I think.
Alright, no rush. Okay, next one, Ethan. Ethan is at R2, so Ethan is able to share his ally with the speed buff, the magic tune buff. So, personally, I think his ability mod is pretty important because it increases the rate of triggering the defense break and the cooldown as well. How do you guys think?
Yeah, same. The chance to defense break is very important.
Yeah,
So-
I use him for my Fafnir speedruns,
Mm-hmm.
and throughout if you don't skill him out in Fafnir speedruns, you don't get your defense break during the Fafnir turn. So I would say that he is an important skill up.
But not really have to go rush for max, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I would say same, important.
I would say same. Yeah. I will put it as important.
Okay. Valeria, our DPS bird esper here. So do you guys use her often at any kind of content that requires her to skill up?
I use her in Falsetto Fantasy in Forwardor.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing that Valeria is suffering from is that that's probably the only content she heavily excels in. There is no other content other than maybe Chronos, for instance, right? That she really like excels in per se. Maybe Flow Tower, but Flow Tower there's a lot of better espers out there, I guess.
Correct.
So I wouldn't skill her up for the extra little bit of damage, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I had the option possibly because I know you know I'm a score chaser, so
Mm-hmm.
I might possibly skill her up, but then other than that, I don't think I will.
How about Gigi?
I don't use her often, like I think at all. But I think if you do have Liam and you have her at R2, or you have Liam at R2 and her at R2, then it might be good to skill her up for bitter. You can combo that with Liam because she does AP down on her S1, right?
Yeah,
So it might be good. I don't know. I can't guarantee that because I don't skill her up and I don't use her. I don't have Liam at R2 and her at R2. So again, I don't really know. So for her, I would just say no rush unless you have like R2 Liam to try it out.
Agree. Cause mostly her role is like just DPS and then the skill up increase the DPS but don't really change much in her kit, like based on chance rate, or cause her main role is like from her passive, right? The power reserve from R2. So I think it's no rush as well. So we
Yeah.
can put it here.
Yeah, I don't think it's a rush either.
Alright, the next one we have is Ginny, which is one of the PvP esper that can counter Anna very well. And in PvE, do you guys use her in any kind of content?
I don't use her at all. I don't have her, but I don't use her. I don't see myself using her in anywhere. So I would say she's just wasteful.
Okay, I think this is a very argumentative topic, because the thing is, if we're looking at R2, Ginny, and especially if you are, let's say you are someone that plays PvP. I know this is a bit off topic, but let's say you're someone that plays PvP, you focus on Ginny, you focus on her divinates and stuff, right?
Yeah.
She's actually a really solid damage dealer in Counter Sonica.
Oh.
So I have been playing on. I've been testing it out on like or asking people to test out on the different accounts, and Ginny for Counter Sonica at high investments is very, very powerful. She gets like, I think solo she gets 1.6 million damage, I think, by herself. Around, I think R3 D4 or R3 D3, around that like general area. So she is, but I would say for any other general content, she is a waste for ability mons. But if you are a PvP player that wants to focus your ability mons in a PvE aspect as well, Ginny is someone that you might want to consider. So I wouldn't say she's wasteful, but I would say she, if you're PvE focused, it's not for you, I guess.
Yeah, so because today we are just talking about pure PvE, so
I would say it's wasteful.
Yeah, I think Ginny is a wasteful, because if you just focus on playing PvE, you don't even care the point war or knockout, then Ginny is not even your choice to level up, right?
Yep.
Alright, then for Brewster, and we're looking at R2, so he will be having the 3 bullet at the start of combat. Then personally, I would say Brewster is a must max, but up to you guys.
Same.
Must max.
We don't even need to elaborate for this.
For sure.
Okay, Brewster must max. Okay.
Yeah, it is super important with all of his skills, even his S1. The trigger chance for the defense break, you need it to be 100%, so it's consistent. So you need to max out all of his skills.
Yeah, the trigger of defense break, or the damage, and then everything is about his S1 as well from the bullet. Yeah. Okay, Abigal, so I think it's very important, because the S3 without skill up is like nothing, because you can't even AP push. How about you guys?
Yeah, I think so too. And not only her S3, I think her S2 is also very important to max, because it increases the amount of damage that you can block. It's just a very defensive ability as well. Yeah, it's a very defensive ability. It helps you survive a lot of content, like in Infinity Tower or Calamity Tower. And even in Falsetto Fantasy as well.
Yeah, I think the same. She's either important or must max, because her S3 doesn't really work if you don't have it maxed out. But then again, if you are entering late game, her uses in PvE kind of dwindles down a little bit. So I don't know if she's a must max because of that. So either important or maybe must max. I'm not so sure.
I think with the introduction of Sachiko, I feel that she has been bumped down to
Yeah. Because like she offers like a bunch of the buffs that Abigail provides as well.
Okay. Yeah. But okay, let's say we don't consider Sachiko and we just consider on her kit. I think she will be a must max, because the S3 needs the 100% AP push, and then the S2 needs to increase the shield amount as well, right? So if we don't consider about the outer thing that will affect the game, I think she should be the must max tier.
Yeah, I think I can agree.
Yeah.
Okay, let's put that must max. Okay, Elliot. Personally, I use Elliot when all those Infinity Tower last time when JJ is still able to CD down. I use Elliot to like CD down for Jiang Jiu Li and also like Anna situation. But I'm not sure for now. Like, is his skill up important at all? But he can self cooldown reduce when he get a hit. How do you guys think?
I don't use him for Infinity Tower, but he is good for like the boss stages that you can AP control or stuns. But the thing is, his skill ups don't really matter in Infinity Tower, because he can, like you say, he can reduce his own cooldown by getting hit, and In Infinity Tower, you cycle faster than the enemy, so you most likely will have the S3 up even if you don't get hit to reuse it on the boss. So I think it's wasteful to give it to him.
I think I used him in Infinity Tower back when I didn't have Nusi. I think he is not worth the skill ups at all because as you said just now, like his cooldown reduction, he gets cooldown when he gets hit also.
Yeah.
So and he is a very, very defensive Esper as well. So he can take quite a number of hits as well. So his skill ups are not that important for any PvE content, especially when right now JJ has been
Buff.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think we can agree on waste.
Yep.
Yep.
Okay, next one, our Thunder God Gaius. So it increased the skill up for the cooldown and also the shield amounts and DPS as well, right? Then how do you guys think?
I think he's a must max. Because for early game players, he's like one of the best Espers to use. Especially if you have his S3 maxed out. He's the easiest Esper to build. He does a lot of damage. He cycles way too good. And in late game, he does fall off a bit. But I mean, some people do use him in like Dark Starlord. And also, I think Sonica, some people still use him. And in the Flow Tower, he's also very good. So I think he's a must max.
I think for early game, he is definitely a must max. Late game, like you say, he's fallen off. And I personally don't use him in Falsetto Fantasy at all. But the fact that him skilled up makes his S3 rotation much more viable and much more fluid. It deserves a must max.
So if must max, do you think we should only max out the S2 and S3, or even the S1 is also important to max?
Just his S3, I think.
S2,
Just his S3.
how about S2?
S2 not really that important because you just need him to cycle between the waves of like Agni says fluidly.
I see. So must max tier, but not all the skill, just S3 is
Just S3.
Okay. Alright, Hilda, I think it's the meta or the cheat code for Infinity Tower because of her poison and the sleep. Personally, I don't max her skill because I just want her sleep and the poison damage that doesn't skill from the skill damage. So how do you guys think?
I maxed her.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I maxed her out, and on Ocean, she basically almost has her S3 every single rotation. The more important thing over the poison and sleep, right, is the fact that her S3 gives like defense break as well. So I mainly use her in Counter Sonic. Sorry, not Counter Sonica, Phobator.
But
And the defense break comes very, very useful when I'm using it in one of my teams because she is the main defense breaker in the team as well. So having her skilled up cycles the S3 a lot more, cycles the defense break a lot more as well.
so you mean like for the CD reduction, because in the skill up there it doesn't increase the rate of triggering the defense break.
Yeah,
I see.
definitely for the CD.
How about GG?
Yeah, I think she's a must skill up.
Must max?
Because I've seen like some people solo the Flow Tower with her alone. So if you don't want to build a team in the Flow Tower, you can just solo with her. If you put her on Ocean Waves and max skilled up, because she does poison damage, right? So she does HP %. You don't really need to care about her damage. You just need to be on Ocean Waves. And if you have her at R2, it does even more poison procs. And like Agni says in Forbiter, if you don't have her maxed out, then the RG is quite big because you want her to have the S3 buff at all times so that Forbiter can be slapped for the entire duration of your fight. If
I
Forbiter gets a
see.
single turn, then your score drops drastically. So yeah, maxing her, especially her third skill, is very important for Forbiter and also Flow Tower.
I see.
So yeah.
Wow, that's very big because I didn't skill up my Hilda. Alright, so must max tier and just S3, right? Though we don't really need to max out the S1 and S2.
Yeah.
Okay. Alright, the next one, Ahmed. So Ahmed, personally, I use him very often for a lot of content as well, for Falsetto Fantasy, Chimera, our Wind Tower as well, because of the CD reduction from the S3 and the healing amount increase. And how do you guys think about Ahmed?
When I started off the game and I got Ahmed, I saw his skill. I was like, oh my god, I need to skill him up so bad because he's that extra cooldown reduction, so good, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And then his AI is so bad.
Yeah.
And then I 100% regret my skill up.
Oh,
Yeah, 100% I regret my skill up because there is no content in the game that with Ahmed's like messy AI, right? There is almost no content in the game where he will use his S3 and have it on like or not have it back up cooldown when he uses his S3 again. Maybe for anomaly in the future, but right now at least there is no. Even in Counter Sonica where I used to use him, his S3 his S3 just like comes back up very quickly regardless. So it's a regretful like Abilimon choice, I guess.
I see. That's surprising. Okay, how about Gigi?
Same. I have him skilled up, and it's pretty useless. I don't really see much use of his skill ups, and I think he has like one of the worst skill ups layout in the game because his S1 and S3 requires 6 each, unlike Clara which requires 4 each. So if you get really unlucky and you max out his S1, and then you're kind of out of luck because his S1 it only increases his damage, right?
Yeah,
and
not
he doesn't
healing.
yeah. So he's either wasteful or no rush because, like Agni says, his skill ups is useful for bossing contents where once you've ramped up the boss to a high amount of damage, then he will start spamming his S3 whenever he gets hit because your team will be on low HP every single time, right?
Yeah.
So that's the only reason why you want to have him skilled up. But aside from that, he's kind of useless. The skill ups.
Y'all were here for like the previous anomaly, correct?
Yeah.
Remember during the Lion, the first phase where Ahmed was used as one of the adjudicator or something like that.
Yeah.
Him having the skill ups there is actually good because Lion does so much damage, right? Sometimes that you need the S3 to literally keep your team alive. I think skill ups for that is still good, but the fact is that right now, at least for the past don't know how many months, when CA like ended, we didn't have any sort of content that required that skill up or that cooldown reduction on his S3. So at least right now, I would say that it's a big waste to skill him up. Maybe in the future, maybe when the Celestial Anomaly releases and we see what the bosses are like or what their mechanics are like, maybe it might also be an option to skill him up.
I see. So I think we can put it at no rush because I think we still agree that his S3 is useful, but in not current content in the game we have now, because that's not really needed a massive heal. But if there's a new content that came out next year, since we already saw the roadmap, then maybe Ahmed's S3 will play in a important role, right? So I think we can put at no rush.
Yeah.
Okay. Alright. Jin Qiu. The problem with Jin Qiu now having is the S2. He can keep spamming S2, right? If we are fully skilled up. So how do you guys think about Jin Qiu's skill ability?
I think if you have him, if you have his S2 maxed out, it might be worse for you because everything in the game has a turn count, aside from like the shadow bosses and Infinity Tower. So if you do have his S2 maxed out, then every other turn he's going to get an additional turn, so he cuts your turn count by a lot. Yeah. But if you do have him at R2, I think it's better to not have him skilled up, especially his S2, because you just want him to be there for the support that he provides from his R2, which is giving like I think 25% attack and defense to your allies that can do debuffs or something like that.
25% attack and base attack and defense.
Yeah, base attack and defense. So he's either no rush or waste, to be honest with me.
So you won't even consider like his damage scaling from the S1 and S3, which increase a lot the percentage.
It's not that much.
If you are using for Andras, it might be useful, but only for Andras because again, like every other content, he's not really good in. for PVE content, that is.
Because of the S2 messed up everything.
Yeah.
If
If
you
you have
think
his
about,
S2,
yeah,
go ahead.
continue.
If you have his S2 maxed out, then he cycles a little bit too fast while not doing too much.
I think if you look at it from what we used to experience in the past Celestial normally, any sort of wave content, like for instance the goat one, right? It already introduced a turn limit. So when Jin Qiu just goes in and like S2 then S3 and then S2 then S3, you waste so many turns on him, and he also doesn't deal a very substantial amount of damage because he doesn't crit. And the crit multiplier in this game is pretty high. Like you already have a base 150%, and then you have like a lot of additional like crit damage from many different sources, as well as like maybe the Celestial Anomaly tree giving you more crit damage on your characters and stuff. So scaling him up, in my opinion, is not a big deal. And right now in our current content, like GGZ said, we only use him for Andras. So there's a lot of better options out there as well.
I think we can put it at waste, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Norah. So Norah is one of the Esper that's able to deal damage that ignores defense based on her accuracy, and then multi-hitter, AoE damage, everything she has in her kit. Personally, I don't really use her other than Andras places. Then, how do you guys think about the skill up?
I feel that she suffers the same issue as Jin Qiu.
Yeah.
She cannot crit, and not critting makes her very difficult to use in content.
So
Yeah.
I think it's the same issue with Jin Qiu, right? As you guys say. So waste.
Yeah, I think it's a waste.
I think it's a waste too. She's pretty, and that's it.
Anna's girlfriend.
Yes.
Okay. Maybe it's one of our meta Esper, I think, for PvP and PvE as well because of her unique kit and the Griffeless thing. Personally, I don't really think she needs the skill up, but how do you guys think about maybe the cooldown reduction part? Oh wait, she don't
There's
provide...
no cooldown reduction.
So how do you guys think about it?
100% waste.
Yeah, 100% waste. She's like one of the best R0 at D0 Espers that we can get, and it's also you don't really need any skill ups for her because it only adds damage.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a waste.
True, I
skill her
forgot
up.
about the part. Nice.
Yeah. If she had cooldown up, right, I would say maybe it's a possibility of like a no rush or decent. But the fact that she is such a good R0, like you say R0 D0, really good expert that doesn't need any sort of abilimon requirements, I think that's a big thing on her part as well.
Okay, the next one, Ashley. Ashley skill up increase damage and also the cooldown reduction. Then I mainly use her for like Chronos or Apex, all this kind of speed running leaderboard stuff. Then, but other than that, I don't really use Ashley. So personally, I maxed out my Ashley. But how do you guys think about her?
I skilled up my Ashley. Also because I do like speedrunning content in rituals.
Do you regret?
And I don't regret skilling up because I also use her as a damage dealer in Wind Tower. I am lacking Tang Xuan, so my Wind Tower is suffering. And she is one of the espers that I use purely for damage in my Wind Tower as well. So scaling her up helps her rotate much faster. And I think she would be a very important skill up for me.
Yeah, same. I think it's either important or must max, especially if you're end game. For speed runs, you do need her S3 to be maxed out to have it up on the last boss phase. And for Andras, her S3, if you have it up at 4 turns, then she can use it on the boss and also protect your Tever from dying. Because sometimes if your Tever doesn't have the shield buff, then he could potentially die from the boss attack and all of the minions follow-up attack.
Yeah, agree.
So either important or must max, but for early game, you're not really speed running stuff, so I don't know if it's a must max for you.
I will say important because, like, is it that rush for the damage, I don't know, but I think it's important, but not really that urgent to max out the Esper. If we consider the order, the skill leveling order with the max level have like Brewster, Gaius, Abigal, and then if we're comparing that with Ashley, I don't think Ashley will fit into the max tier. I would say important tier. How do you guys think?
Yeah, I can agree.
Okay. Okay, the next one, Leora. So Leora is also one of the Esper that is mainly used for speed running, and also is a very good Esper for like new player to actually use her. Then mainly from her skill up is the damage output. So how do you guys feel about Leora's skill up?
I only use her in Chronos and APEP, and she doesn't need any skill ups for both of those. If you are struggling with Flow Tower, then the skill ups might help you for the cooldown reduction on her S3 and the added extra damage. But like I said, if you are speedrunning Chronos and APEP and you can one-shot with her without the skill ups, then you don't really need her skill up. So it's either no rush or decent. It's not wasteful, I think.
I'm on the same plane as GGZ. I think if you're struggling with Flow Tower, definitely go and skill her up. But because her passive is so good, that it resets the cooldown after every wave. I think it's a no rush to skill up at all. Because like you say, it's only increasing damage. The only place you actually need damage is like if you're trying to one wave the Chronos waves, or you're trying to deal more damage in tower, for instance.
I see. So yeah, I think it's okay to skill up Leora. It's not like wasting on her because the damage is nice. Like if the previous trials event we have is like the wave content one, then Leora plays a very big role, especially for the damage output she have. So I think I'll put at no rush.
Yeah.
Okay. Alright, the next one, Biodina. Personally, I have bad experience with Biodina because when I start the game, I have like R3 Biodina when I started. So I really have bad experience with her. I don't really like her. And then I only use her in one content, which is what's that called? Dark Starlord. And I don't skill her up because I just use her passive, that's all. So how do you guys think?
Same. I only use her in Dark Starlord. But if you do have her Divinate at D3, if you are unlucky enough to pull it to D3 in Gold Record, then her S1 does quite a significant amount of damage in Dark Starlord Team 1. Especially if you have like R2 Unas to give the attack buff. Because I think she has like 50% chance to pursuit with her S1, right?
Yeah,
and
correct.
her S1, if the enemy doesn't have any buff, then she does 50% more damage. So she ends up doing like 30,000, 40,000 on Team 1 Dark Starlord, which has a bunch of defense. So that's only if you have her Divinate 3. If you don't have her Divinate 3, I think it's wasteful or no rush.
I think I'm on the same plane. Just keep in mind for people who are planning to push damage on DSL that if you don't have enough stacks, your other teams will suffer.
Yeah.
But regardless of that, her scaling her up rotates her S3 and S1 a lot, and it can push her to quite an insane level of damage. I've tested it myself, not with skill ups, but I've tested it myself on a theoretical team that I was crafting, and she herself without skill ups dealt around like 1 million damage. So with her skill ups it can definitely do more. But like I say, if you're gonna push damage on DSL team 1, you gotta hope that you have enough debuffs. So I would say that her skill ups is also either wasteful or no rush. Probably a wasteful because that's the only content that she's
Yeah.
I would say it's waste because we already surround Biodina's topic around DSL. We don't even consider about Calamity Tower all those things as well. So I think it's a waste.
Yeah.
Okay. Alright, the next one, Farrah, the one of the best freeze Esper for PvP content. For PvE, I think for certain usage like Infinity Tower, you need the freeze because since freeze is a better stun now because you cannot AP push when the enemy is on freeze, and I think this counters certain Infinity Tower unique buff, right? The mechanics. But her skill up only increase the damage and the cooldown. It doesn't increase like all those freezing rate stuff. So how do you guys think about Farrah?
I think for Farrah, I don't use her that much in PvE content, but I think her skill ups are actually not too bad. Because freeze is right now at least with the freeze buff, right? Freeze is a very, very strong debuff right now. And for Farrah, more freeze is literally just like more stuns, And she also has a dispel on her kit. So it's also very, very good to cycle her S3 and S2 quite quickly. So I would say it would be a decent skill up.
Yeah, same. I think it's decent to skill her up, especially because she is green. Because the green tower is the hardest by far out of all the other towers. We don't have enough AoE DPS, and Farrah being one of the best AoE DPS and also a freeze unit, you kind of want her S3 to be maxed out so she can carry one team by herself, and you let the other two teams be Camille or Yun Chuan and stuff like that. Because like I said, the wind tower is one of the hardest towers that we have currently. So I think it's decent, but aside from that tower, I don't see much use for her.
So if we compare Farrah with like the no rush tier, do you think Farrah have a higher priority than them, or Farrah should stay with them? If we consider like with them,
I think
Prio, I think.
Yeah, I think she's higher prio because the no rush one, you don't need their skill ups like at all for them to function. Farrah, for the wind tower, you kind of need it for the cooldown reduce on her S3.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay.
I feel like the no rush tier is a very like good to have kind of thing.
Good to have, but no rush.
But yeah, good to have, but if you don't have, it's fine. But for decent, it's like a good to have, but a need in certain content.
Okay, agree. Alright, so for our first Shimmer Esper we're gonna discuss today, which is Cecelia. Cecelia S3 increased the amount heal based on percentage, but the S1 only increased the damage. So do you guys use Cecelia in PvE content?
In all my lives of 625 days, I haven't seen a single use for Cecelia, not even once in PvE. I think I did use her once in like the old Sentinel Hunt, you know, the
you want to revive?
Before they reworked it, but she still kind of sucks now.
Even in the old DSL, she actually kind of sucks there.
Yeah, I think she's wasteful.
Wasteful. So
yeah, she's for sure wasteful.
Okay. Alright, so now we have our Donar daddy, which recently he get a massive amount of buff. I know he is performing very actively in PvP now. PvE, I'm not really tested him since his massive buff. So, but I heard Agni have some interesting thoughts or ideas about him. So, how do you think?
Okay, Donar is a very interesting Esper, especially after his buff.
Yeah. Oh, so, by the way, we are considering him R6 because we can get him R6 for free.
Yeah. So okay, I'm taking it as a R6 D1 maybe because his different you also can get for free. His PvE usage mainly in Sonica right now is actually really very strong. I basically put like I skilled him up. I put a little bit of decent relics on him, and one combo of like his turn, the AoE counter, his S3 and then counter again, dealt like 5 mil damage to Sonica flat out. And that's not including like any possible relief that you have on him and whichever. There is someone that I was speaking to in the Never chat as well. I think Manny skilled up he has a R6 D2 or D3 Donar with really, really good like relics. His one combo deals around like 7.5 mil. So I would say right now after his buff, he's definitely put into the decent or important tier of skill ups. If you throw him into Calamity Tower, he's also another super broken character in Flow Tower.
Yeah. How about Gigi?
Yeah, I so far I only use him in the Flow Tower. But like Agni says, he might be good for Sonica. I don't know if he's gonna be better than Renzi because defense break is super important for Sonica. If you run him, then you might want to run a additional defense breaker so you fill one slot in. But the good thing about him is that if you run him, you don't really need a defense buffer for the team because he already provides his own defense buff, right?
Mm-hmm.
So Yeah, I don't have much experience for him in Sonica, but for Flow Tower, he's like Agni says, he's very good. He does a lot of AoE damage, even before the buff, and after the buff, he's even better. But I think after the buff, it's sort of a nerf if you don't have him max skilled up, because now his S3 is I think it's a 3-turn cooldown. Whereas previously you could reduce it by critting, right? If you can crit, you reduce the cooldown by 1 turn. So with the current one, you kind of need him to be max skilled up for it to be 2 turns, so he can spam more of the AoE damage. But yeah, aside from the Flow Tower, I don't really have much experience with him. So he's either decent. I would say he's decent to me.
Okay, I think I'll put him at decent as well. There are better espers to that.
How about considering his S2? Because his S2 have 1 turn reduced cooldown. If we max skill up his S2, then his S2 passive, which only needs to take 2 turns.
Yeah, like I said, he's mostly, for me, he's mostly just a Flow Tower unit. So I'd say he's still just decent for me.
Yeah.
Okay. Right, Fatum Sister, one of the Esper that we hate at the start, but now I think most of us, or a lot of players, start to find her potential in like Falsetto Fantasy, Ritual Miracle, or even Chimera Anomaly, or even Calamity Tower, or even Infinity Tower if you want the AP push and the heals and the revives. I think we start to find her value in, but the question will be, should we skill her up for all those kit enhancement, for the AP down, for the rate to trigger and the cooldown as well?
Okay, I think I'm a very, very big Fatum supporter.
Okay.
Even pre-nerf. Pre-buff. I actually pulled for her. on the SSM banner.
Okay.
Yeah. So I think Fatum is at a very good place right now. And even with her skill up, she's they are in an even better place. And the thing you need to understand is that she has one of the most, or the highest AoE AP down in the game. She has an 80% AP down on her S3 at max skill. Because at one of the skill levels, the condition doubles from I think 10% to 20%.
Yeah.
So it's a full 80% like AP down. It's kind of crazy. And the fact that she is also her cooldowns got buffed, like 1 turn down buff and everything, and she also gives misrate up, she also gives defense up. It makes her really, really powerful.
So in your opinion, do you think she'll be an important or must max for you?
This is a very good question. We're looking at R2, right?
Yeah, R2.
R2 I would say must max. R0 I would say important, R2 I would say must max.
How about Gigi?
I would say same, either important or must max, because her S3, you kind of want it to be on 4-turn cooldown, because one of the reasons why Xuan Pin is a really exceptional boss killer is because her S3 provides the miss rate up. You see, like a lot of these crazy scores involve either Xuan Pin or Yun Xuan. Yun Xuan gives a 75% miss rate down, and once you push the boss to like 10 million score or something, if you don't land, if the boss lands a non-miss on you, he just straight up one-shots one of your units. So this miss rate debuff is actually quite important. So if you have it up at 4 turn, then the uptime on the miss rate up debuff becomes a 50% more so, right? So yeah, I think that's why it's super important to max out her S3. Her S2, you don't really need it to be completely maxed out, because her cycle, if you don't revive, is always going to be the same. It's always going to be S3, and then she goes to S2, and then S1, S1, and it goes back to S3. So S3, I would say definitely must max, but S2, you don't really need it to be maxed out.
So I think, I personally, I think I'll go for must max rather than just important. How about Amy?
I think
must max. I think
Must max.
yeah, because she's also very good in Dislyte Lens for the speed lead and speed buff as well.
Yeah.
Oh yes, I forgot about
The
that.
speed leader is so unique for so many content. Alright, next one, Liling. He also recently get a massive buff. Personally, I really like his buff changes, but in terms of skill up, I don't think Liling really need it because of the new buff he get is able to cool down his own S3, and with Ocean Wave, maybe you can already settle up the skill up part. So personally, I would say I would put Liling at no rush. So how do you guys think?
For me, I have him at R6, and I did max him out once, and then when the rewind event came back, I just straight up rewind him because his skill up is kind of useless. I think his S3 went from like 30% damage to 38%, so he only went up by
8% per punch, yeah.
Yeah, 20%, 24% damage on his S3, and then his S2 I think went from 45 to 50 on a 5 hit. So it's only a 25% increase, and you don't really need it to be skilled up, because his cycle is. I mean, he does cycle a little bit better. His S3, with his buff, his S2 will then reduce the S3 cooldown, and then you go back into S3, and then if you do have his S2 maxed out, then he could cycle a little bit better. But again, the skill ups layout is kind of terrible for him because you only want his S2 to be maxed out, and his S1 and S3 is super wasteful to skill up. So he's either no rush or waste, to be honest.
I think his entire kit, right? The fact that his kit is not very good even after the buff, I would say that it's a waste to skill him up as well.
I think we already have a free-to-play option, which is Lucas, which is like 10 times better than him. So
yeah, the new Lucas buff is kind of crazy. So so I wouldn't put Liling anywhere other than wasteful tier.
Okay, so let's put there. And then Gabbrile, one of our used to be the most free to play Esper when we have the fusion, but now we cannot fuse her anymore. But we'll still consider her as R6 Esper, which gains another turn of immunity, right? And
Yes.
then personally, I maxed out my Gabbrile because she is one of the best buffer that can provide defend up immunity and even a lot of AoE debuff as well. She's frequently used in a lot of content as well, but not in like those bossing content. But I use her in my Wind Tower, and maybe for early game and mid game play, will be using her for Infinity Tower as well. So how do you guys think about her skill up?
I max kill her. I think it's a very, very good investment. Regardless of whether you are R0 or R6, max skilling Gabriel is very useful for like a lot of content. Her S3 gives like defense up, immunity, and those two buffs basically keep your entire team alive. So cycling that very often, especially if you have R0, cycling that more often will help you to keep your team more healthy. Yeah. Although she doesn't see much use right now in a lot of content. So I would put her under a decent tier, mainly because her kit is so good, but she doesn't see that much use anymore.
How about Gigi?
back when we had like Esper events, you know, the trial stuff that we had, I use her a lot because she is the best immunity provider in the game. If you have her at R6, then the immunity is 3 turns, so she has it up for 3 out of 4 turns, which is kind of crazy. And her defense break, if I'm not mistaken, on her S2 also increases, so it's very important. And for if in the future we do get like a trial challenge that includes like 5 enemy Espers, then she's gonna be good for that content because she provides the multi-hits for your Embla to do a bunch of damage. She provides AoE defense break. She provides AoE attack break so your team can survive. Defense buff. Again, the immunity for 3 turns is so crazy good because in these trial bosses, trial challenges, the boss will have like 10 different debuffs and you kind of want to prevent yourself from getting hit by those. So, but in the current content, she doesn't see much use aside from the Wind Tower. So I would say she's either decent or important because for early game player, her skill ups really helps you a lot. So Yeah, I'm not too sure. Either important or decent.
Yeah, at first personally I want to vote for Must Max, but after hearing everything, like, yeah, she's not really used in a lot of current content when it's endgame. So I'm more towards important, like if we compare to like Donar and Cang Ji, all those priority, I would say Gabriel's priority is higher.
Yeah.
I would say that because her kit is so good, I would put her as important.
Okay. Alright, Ophelia, one of the strong single target DPS. I have her R6 and I regret her on max skill up. I took her skill up out from the rewind, even though after the buff. So how do you guys think?
I don't know, because other than Sonica and speedrunning Fafnir
And Shadow Glow.
and Shadow Glow, Ophelia hasn't been used in a lot of content, or she doesn't see much use in content. Even right now, unless you have R6, Ophelia, I think she still doesn't see much use in Sonica compared to a lot of other like choices. So skill ups on her is not a very good option, I guess.
After the buff, her R2, I think could be useful, but I don't have her R2, so I can't really test it out. Because right now her R2, if you use the S2 on a enemy that has like 3 or more debuffs, then your S3 cooldown is going to reduce by 1. So if you have her S3 maxed out, it's going to be a 3 turn. Her cycle is going to be S3, S2, S3, S2, S3, S2. And that's super important because her S3 does a lot of damage, and she also provides the bleed stacks. So you can really easily stack debuffs on the enemy, and also she provides the defense break. So I don't know if you can swap out the twins, because right now the twins, the reason why they are so good is because they have almost 100% uptime on the defense break, right? But if you do have Ophelia maxed out and R2, then she could potentially replace the twins, and then you could run a additional unit alongside her, because she does damage and provides the defense break almost 100% of the time. So I'm not too sure. I haven't tested her out because I don't have her R2, but she might be good in that case, but I'm not too sure. So I would say if you do have her R2 and you still have the rewind token, you can try it out and see if she's good. But for now, I would say she's either decent or no rush.
Not at a waste.
Funnily enough, I wanted to do that. I wanted to skill her up, get her path of experience done, and then like rewind her back down. I threw 4 Abigal in. Everything went to a S3. Now I don't know whether I want to rewind her, because it's actually really good.
Yeah, I think you should just keep it because you got really lucky with the skill ups, right?
Yeah, it was like 115 right now.
I think we mainly use her for Wind Tower. We don't really use her on other Ritual Miracles or Infinity Tower or bosses content, right? So I would say waste for now.
I would say it's a waste. Actually no, I would say it's a no rush rather than a waste. Because we have usage for her in certain content. It's not that we don't have usage, it's just that she can be replaced.
Actually, I think I might put her in important because if you saw what's it called, a Grogo's speedrun, he does include Ophelia in the speedrun, and you can also use her in Shadow, the flow one, and she's also good for the Shimmer one, which is Shade Mother, the
Shadow Glow.
Yeah, Shadow Glow. And yeah, but outside of that, I can't really say if she's good for Forbiter or any of the Falsetto Fantasy, but her kit does kind of insinuate that she could be good only if you have her at R2. So if you do use her for speedrunning Fafnir, then I think it's important to skill her up.
Yeah.
So it's either important or decent if like this.
Actually, okay, I think this is a hard choice. Because speedrunning Fafnir, you have a lot of options. And I think Agrogro is one of the best guys to ask for speedrunning Fafnir. He uses Ophelia. He also has a strat without Ophelia that does like a 8-turn average. So it's actually really fast without Ophelia. So I would put it under decent because you don't really need her. You don't really need her skilled up to speedrun Fafnir as well.
Yeah, I think decent.
Yeah, decent is okay.
Okay, the next one, Lucas. So we're considering Lucas as R6 because it's fusible, and then we can get a Definite for free as well. And he also recently get a buff.
Yeah.
So is his skill up that important?
No.
No.
Yeah, no.
For
No.
the CD reduction, no.
No.
You only need his skill up for Inferno Tower and that's it, not for Infinity Tower and stuff.
Okay, so waste.
Yeah.
Alright, next one, Sally. So the Sally is now the free-to-play Esper that we're able to get from the tower, the spatial tower, right? And then Sally's skill up will increase the cooldown reduction, and other than that, and also the what's that called? The healing amount from the S3 when the passive trigger, and also the S1 immunity gain. So personally, I maxed out my Sally, but how do you guys think?
I think you don't really need to max her out, especially if you don't have her R6. If you only have her at R2, then her cycle is too slow, and you kind of want to have her on Ocean Waves, because if she casts the S3, she has a 3-turn downtime, which means you have a 3 chances of proccing an Ocean Waves to reset her S3. So you don't really need her to be maxed out for her to cycle like usual with skill ups. But if you do have her at R6, then it might be worth it to skill up. So she's either no rush or decent.
I think I share the same sentiments. Pre R6, I think it's a no rush or decent. I have her skilled up like fully, and it's been good to me, but I don't use her that much in a lot of content. So I would say I think it would be a no rush, I guess.
Yeah, I think it's a no rush. Like it's good to have, but not really needed since her kit is already there.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, Nusi, the Shimmer Legend I really wanted to get, but I failed to get. Personally, if I get her, I would definitely max skill her up. I think it's very strong for Infinity Tower. It's like most of the PvE cheat code because of the CD extend, the AP down, the defense rate, the CD reset, the speed up, everything on her kit is like amazingly good. So definitely for me, I'll max her out if I have her. So how do you think?
Nusi, max skill. I think max skill very important.
Max skill.
I think a max skill is really very important because she basically makes Infinity Tower a joke. Her cooldown reduction. Cooldown reduction. Her cooldown increase just makes like Infinity Towers like super easy, and her cooldown reset if you pair her with like TF for instance, right? Your opponent just can't take a turn. So having those cycle more often is actually very useful. So I would put it as a must.
Yeah, I either important or must max, because only PvE uses is mostly just for Infinity Tower.
Yeah.
For early game, you can use her for story and stuff like that. And the max skill up will definitely help you a lot if you are a new player for Infinity Tower, because your Nusi will be built slower than endgame players, right? So you can't really cycle all that well with her. You kind of need the skill ups. But once you enter late game, her skill ups don't really matter all that much to you, because your Nusi is now at like plus 300 speed. You can cycle before the enemy reduces their cooldown, and you get your S3 cooldown back up, so you can use it again. So they can't really do anything. So yeah, she's mostly important or must max if you are early game. If you're late game, I think she's decent.
So where should we put her? Must max important?
I would say important, I guess.
Okay.
I have tried to find a use for her in Sonica, for Sonica Team 1, but her cooldown reduction is so so wonky sometimes. So it doesn't really do much. But in other like controllable content, her cooldown reduction is going to be very useful. But it's not as I guess it won't be as important as a lot of other espers that are on the mass max tier.
Okay, then Intisa. Personally, I don't have Intisa, but today I have her. Then I don't really know where to use her at all, and I don't really see her using in other kind of PvE content recently we have in game. So how do you guys think about Intisa?
Intisa to me is a no max. Not at all.
Waste.
Yeah, same.
Not at all, yeah.
Okay.
I'm not sure if her S3 increases the defense break, but if it does, then you might want to max out her S3.
No, it doesn't.
But okay, so yeah, no skill ups then.
Okay. Lucas. No, this is not Lucas. Luis, the boxing guy, is very strong in PvP if R6, but to be honest, in PvE, I don't even see his flame around any kind of content. So I would say it's a waste, but how do you guys think?
Same.
Same.
I think the content that he shines in is wave content. If we do get like a wave clearing content, that could be good, especially if you have him at R6, only at R6. But if you have him only at R2, then he's still going to be a waste because he's not going to do that over the splash damage, right? So he's not going to kill the rest of the enemies. Yeah, outside of like wave content, he doesn't see much use.
Okay.
Okay, Jiang Jiu Li. So one of the best winner from our recent buff patch. So in PvE users, I think the only use for Jiang Jiu Li will be Infinity Tower to counter back another Jiang Jiu Li. But other than that, if we are talking about just purely PvE content, I don't really see a use for him. So yeah.
Not at all. I would say it's a total waste.
Yeah, total waste for PvE and even for PvP as well.
Oh,
You don't really need his skill ups.
I see. Okay, Raven. So I really love Raven's passive damage, especially I use her at like speed clearing content. I use her for like Cube Miracle. I use her for some of my certain Ritual Miracle or speed running for Temporal Tower as well. I use Raven a lot, and I really love her skill up for the damage increase. So how do you guys think?
I personally won't skill her up for. I personally won't skill her up for PvE content, because there is, as much as her damage is good, she doesn't shine a lot in PvE stuff. Like she has an AoE dispel, which is great, and she has like an extra damage, which also is good. But it's only a one-time thing, and then after that you got to like wait a while before you can do the same thing again. So I would say her skill ups is very wasteful.
But in terms of speed running,
Speed running, let's say you're talking about speed running Andras, for instance, right? It's good to have. I speed run Andras right now. My Andras turn is like 19 turns right now with Raven, and I don't have her skilled up. So
okay, how about Gigi?
If you're using her for speedrun and you can already one shot, it's like the same deal with Leora. You don't really need it. But if you need that extra bit of damage from her S2, then you could skill her up just enough so that she can one shot. Because her whole purpose in speedrunning is that she can clear the waves faster, right? The first wave of the Ritual Miracle, your supports can do whatever, do an attack, and then your Raven will just one shot the wave. So you only take one turn. And that's her whole purpose. She doesn't really do much after that. So she's either no rush or wasteful. She's like the same as Leora, I think.
Yeah, I think since the purpose of Raven and Leora is kind of the same, it's like speed running stuff. So I think we can put at no rush, same tier as Leora.
Yeah.
yeah,
Okay. Alright, Tang Xuan. So Tang Xuan we are looking at R2 because it's not R6. So he's not able to bong AoE damage. And personally, I don't max him up. And I only use him for win content, win tower content, that's all. So how do you guys think?
I don't before his I think his R2 starts pursuing, right? Once you get
Yeah.
to once you get to R2, he might be worth it to scale up just for like some bosses like Dark Starlord, because Dark Starlord has 3 enemies and that's all you need for Tang Xuan. If you do have his S1 maxed out, then he does a lot of AoE damage every time he counters, every time he relief procs. But outside of Dark Starlord, in the other 2 Falsetto Fantasy bosses, you can't really use him. And in the Wind Tower, he's mostly just there for the AoE defense break and nothing else. So yeah, he's either no rush or I think no rush.
I don't have him. I don't have function.
Okay.
You don't have
He don't
you're
have
not even
function.
R0.
No, not even R0. It's the one Esper I'm literally missing, and I'm like it's the last Esper in my wish pool. Yeah, so I don't have him. But from the times I used him on other people's like account to test out stuff, he is not an Esper I would scale up. Yeah, he's for sure good in Wind Tower, but but like you say, he only is there to provide the defense break. Sometimes maybe relieve S1 damage.
Yeah.
But other than that, he's not very good to use in a lot of like other content. Other than that, in DSL, so I would say that he's a no rush to level.
So not waste. So you two of you agree with no rush, right? So it's not like a waste here.
Yeah, I think no rush.
No rush.
Okay. Alright, next one, Tether. So personally, I think Tether should be max, since Tether is mainly used in a lot of PvE content, especially when you are trying to do like Andras or maybe towers to speedrun, or maybe some certain maybe for certain fantasy, or even as well for the Lian combo as well. So personally, I would say I would vote for must max. But how do you guys think?
Yeah, I think he's a must max. He's just a cheat code for Desolate Lands. He's like the best DPS.
Oh right, yeah, correct.
And then for Falsetto Fantasy, you can pretty much use him in every single bosses. I use him in the Sonica team, even though he does 1 hit. You can kind of circumvent that by moving the positioning around. And then his skill ups doesn't look too good if you glanced over it, because it only adds like damage. But he's just there for damage and not his utility, right? His main role is to do damage, and you adding his damage through the skill ups helps you drastically in your scoring. So I would say he's a must max.
Agni?
Must max for sure.
Must max
Even
for
his
sure.
S1.
Yeah.
Even his S1.
Especially his S1.
His
he's
S1 is the main thing, not S3.
Yeah.
Okay, TA. So TA is mainly, I use TA everywhere in PvE, especially the like Infinity Tower, Temporal Tower, Cube Miracle. Sometimes maybe for Falsetto Fantasy, if we are testing teams about AP down and AP push stuff. But even though I use her everywhere, I don't think she needs the skill up. Maybe she will be as no rush or waste tier, even though she's already, because she is performing very well without the skill up as well for PvE content. So how do you guys think?
I think she's the same case as Gabbrile. For endgame, you don't really need her to be skilled up, but for early game, having her skilled up helps you cycle way better for Infinity Tower and the Flow Tower. So if you're if you're early game, then it might be important, but if you're end game, then it's just decent, or even no rush.
I think Tia to me is actually a very important skill up.
Oh.
Yeah. I ever since she got buffed, I heavily used her, and ever since I got R2 even, I heavily use her in a lot of content. And she is cycling her S3 and S2 basically keeps your entire opponent like stalled. They basically can't move. So it's super good when it comes to stuff like when you're playing when you're doing Sonica or you're doing Fobator, for instance. I currently use Tia in one of my teams in Fobator, and with that cooldown reduction, you get to keep cycling Fobator. You get to like speed down. You get to AP swap or not or AP down, and you get to really just keep your team moving forward, because at R2 she gets the 10% push as well. So for me, it's a very important skill up, I think. maybe decent to important. I'm pushing towards important. That's it.
I see. So, Gigi and Agni vote for important, right?
Yeah, I think I can agree with important.
Okay. Tricky. So Tricky is also one of the cheat code for Infinity Tower because of his passive. I don't really think the S3 is a must up. It's good to have, but not really must. So I will vote decent to important because I think mainly people use Trickies because of the passive that able to control them. So how do you guys think?
I think he's no rush or decent because currently he's only used in Infinity Tower. You can't really use him in the you can use him in the Wind Tower if you pair him up with like a stunner to extend the stuns. But in Infinity Tower, his only use is when the stage has like immunity at the start of combat. Outside of that, you don't really use him all that much. And for his skill ups, it only increases the chance and the cooldown, but the cooldown is not really important because you only need it for the first turn, and in Infinity Tower you can just retry until you get it a 5-man strip, right? So yeah, I would say either no rush or decent.
I would say it's a no rush for me because like GG said, you only, if you're doing Infinity Tower to remove the immunity buff on the first round, you only, if you fail, you just restart. You know, there's like literally unlimited tries for it. You can just restart all the time, and the rest of his skill ups are not too good to use. He also suffers from the same problem as Ahmed, where it goes 6/6. So it's very expensive to skill him up.
Agree. I didn't consider about. Okay, so no rush.
Yeah,
no rush. Yeah.
All right. Next one, Unas. So we are considering Unas as R0, not R2. So without the attack up buff, I would say Unas is. He used to be very good, but in current PVE content, I think he slowly get pushed down because of other espers showing up. And even though I have his skill S3 max, not S1, so for the CD reduction, so I would say it's a waste or no rush for PVE content.
I think Unas, like you say, he used to be good. Right now, he's being overshadowed by so many other espers right now.
Yeah.
And he is also another esper that's very expensive to level. So I would say that like you have a better option in a lot of other characters over Unas. So I would say he actually is a wasteful esper to level.
Yeah, same. Since we're talking about R0, then he is wasteful because he doesn't provide anything outside of like turn cycling, and his turn cycling is only useful for one of the shadow bosses. But if you do have him at R2, then he goes straight to must max because the attack up that he provides with his speed is like 100% uptime, which is one of the best uptime for attack buffer. But that's only if you have him at R2. At R0, he's wasteful.
Yeah, without the attack up buff, it makes a lot of difference.
Yeah.
Okay, the next one, Javid. I think he only mainly used for the Calamity Tower, but other than that, I don't really see a need for him. Even though when he is proposed as the Chimera boss Esper, but I don't really think he deserves the skill up.
Same.
Yeah, just
Same.
just same.
It's just waste.
It's just very wasteful.
His damage comes from the debuff, and skilling him up doesn't really increase his debuff damage, so you don't really need it.
Okay, Yun Chuan. So Yun Chuan, we are looking at R2, and one of the meta PvE damage dealer. I think he needs a max skill up to rotate his S3 faster for the immunity, speed up AoE, apply for the debuff, and then his passive also skills with the skill up damage as well. So I would vote for must max. So how do you guys think?
I would say must max as well. Most importantly, his S1, because of the miss rate chance increase. It does scale up when you skill him up. He has kind of fallen off when it comes to damage. So in terms of damage, you don't really need him to be skilled up. Right now, the teams that he is in, he's not even the second DPS anymore. He's like the third DPS. He's mainly there for the Eye of Horus debuff, the Seer debuff, and the Mace Rate debuff, and also the speed debuff, speed buff, speed buff and speed debuff. So yeah, must max.
Max. Agni?
Yeah. For Yun Chuan, I think the big like selling point about him is that he does so many things. He gives the speed buff, speed down, misrate up, tier buff, everything, and two forms of misrate up as well. In terms of damage, I think he's a must max mainly because his S2 ignores defense. So having a skill that ignores defense is very powerful because you don't rely on defense break, and he does also do very consistent damage at R2. So when it comes down to a lot of like bosses in the future or current and in the future, especially single target ones, he is going to be a very, very useful Esper, even though his damage might have fallen off a bit, but he is still a must max in my opinion.
So I think 3 of us agree with must max.
Yeah.
Okay, Ollie. So Ollie is one of the Chronos meta Esper because of his kit, able to make his ally survive and S3 to counter S3 skills with the enemy's max HP, and he is also one of the cheese Esper we used previously for the messenger tower as well. And I think a lot of the new player or mid player also use him for temporal tower to counter the boss because of his unique S3 damage. I think he will be a must max or important because of his passive is able to reduce the cooldown 4 turns from the skill up itself. So how do you guys think?
For early game players, he is either important or must max because in Chronos, he is the best DPS for Chronos, and his passive being in a 4-turn cooldown will help you drastically. But once you're in end game, you really have no danger of like dying to Chronos. So you only really need to skill him up for him to do enough damage that he one-shots Chronos with like his retaliation and his S3. So end game, no rush. Early game, important or must max?
I actually back to default on this one. I think I think personally I feel it's a no rush to level.
Oh.
Even if it reduces the cooldown for his immunity, the only places he is actually used for is mainly Chronos and maybe Infinity Tower. So for only those two like main content in the game, I don't think there is a big use in skilling him up.
So you two of you guys more agree with decent no rush or?
Yeah, for me, end game is no rush.
Yeah, end game also no rush.
So if overall?
Overall, I'd say
still agree with no rush.
Either, because like for early game it does help you a bit for Chronos, but yeah, I think it's no rush because Chronos is one of the worst boss to farm right now. It's like it doesn't really provide like good sets, so you don't really want to stay in Chronos that long as a new player. So I would say no rush.
Agni, agree?
Yeah, no rush.
Okay. Alright, Nama, personally, I don't even use him or touch him at all since I get Narmer, even though it's like R6 or what. I don't even see anyone using Narmer in PvE content as well. I would straight away go to Waste, but how do you guys think about him?
Nama?
Yeah.
I love him.
You love him? Wow, okay.
I love him. After watching GGEZ's video about the Nama Cannon,
right,
he is
the Calamity.
literally so powerful. My only regret, right, I skilled him up because he is literally the first legendary Esper I got when I started playing the game, aside from the beginner Esper. I skilled him up. The only big regret I have is I only had like 10 floors of triple tower to play him on. But then he is no rush to level at all.
Yeah, same.
No rush.
Especially if you're talking about R2, I think R6 he has a potential to be like a insane DPS for Dark Starlight if you pair him up with like Liam, because every time Liam every time Liam assists, calls in Narmer for assist, he gains a stack of attack buff, right? So that's 1 stack of the sun buff on him. So once you get Narmer to assist 6 times, he's going to cast his S3, which does like I don't know, 500, 600,000 damage to Dark Starlord. And yeah, it could do like insane damage, especially for Dark Starlord because there's 3 enemies. But outside of Dark Starlord, I don't know if it's going to be any good. And again, this is only for R6. R2 Narmer, he's no rush. He's only good for the Inferno Tower, and that's it.
R6 Narmer has a lot of users right now. Right now, an R6 Narmer is at this moment the fastest speedrun comp in Apex. There is a 4-turn auto speedrun right now with R6 Narmer, and it's actually quite impressive. But I agree that pre R6, you shouldn't need to rush to skill him up.
I see. Okay. Then the next one, Yamato. I have no comments about Yamato in PvE. I don't really touch him at all. So, how do you guys think?
Nah.
Yamato, after his buff, and the fact that his cooldown is 4 turn, I actually wanted to test him out in Counter Sonica Team 1. But I haven't actually done so because skilling him up is very tragic. The only good skills are literally his S3.
Yeah.
Everything else is just like not that much, not that big of a difference. So, I would say he is wasteful to skill up.
Yeah, same.
Same. Yep. Okay, Xuan Pin, the PvE buffer god. I would definitely say max skill up because of her CD reduction to make her rotate the S3 more often. That's where the main DPS output is from Xuan Pin. So how do you guys think?
Definitely max skill up.
Yeah, 100% max skill up.
100% max skill up.
No question. This one.
No
Yeah.
question. Okay, Matteo. So we made a lot of video about Matteo. One punch Fafnir, one punch this, one punch that. Even after that, there's a video coming out soon, which is Matteo one punching Anna as well. So I think his skill up is very important to rotate the. I think the skill up for him is very important to rotate his skill, and the damage output as well. And he skills with a lot of PvE content like Ritual Miracle. You need him. Falsetto Fantasy. You need him. Chimera. You need him. He just don't excel in Infinity Tower only. So how do you guys think about Matteo?
I think I have an R3D3 Matteo, a very very well invested one, and scaling him up to me is a very important thing. Both, actually not even both, just all of his skills. Because right now they changed something about his S1 that the trigger chance of his spark for his S1 scales with his S1 skill as well, which is kind of a dick move to be frank. But then it is what it is. But scaling him up and making him rotate his S3, S2, and S1 constantly and back to his S3, it pushes a lot of damage, especially if you have an R2 Matteo. The fact that he also has a 35% speed lead in all these like bossing content makes him a very very powerful Esper. Very good to invest in.
GG?
Yeah, I think he's one of the best units for like Falsetto Fantasy, and all of the skill ups will benefit you because he cycles. He's like unlike any other DPS where their DPS is mostly just S3. Matteo does his damage like on his S2, his S1 because he cycles like crazy, right? He gains AP whenever your allies crit when the enemy says like spark debuff. So he kind of in the team he takes the most turns out of all of your other allies. So giving him skill ups even on the S1 will increase your score by a significant amount. So yeah, it's either important or must max because I say must max because he's good for all of the Falsetto Fantasy bosses.
Okay, I think we all can agree Matteo is a must max.
Yeah.
Alright, next one, Yuhime. I don't really use Yuhime in any kind of content, only for Calamity Tower. So I would say Yuhime skill up is waste. But how do you guys think?
Waste. It doesn't add anything to her kit. It just adds damage, not even the defense break chance.
Yep.
So yeah.
Waste. Okay, Camille, we are considering her as R6 because we can get her for free. And then Camille, mainly if you want to skill her up, is just because her rotation for S3, S2, S3, S2. But her main damage is actually from the bleed, which is not from the skill, and it won't affect her damage output. I mainly just use her for the wind tower, just to S3, S2, then that's all, that's her job finished, done. Because mainly you already pop all the bleed buff and that's the damage output. So I would say no rush, or cause I might skill her up because I like her kit. So I would say no rush or maybe waste. How do you guys think about Camille?
I think Camille, to me, I skilled her up. She's a very important skill up.
Oh.
Mainly because popping the bleed stuns your enemy. So the stun in Wind Tower, especially when you're going onto high Wind Tower, the stun is super important. As long as your enemies don't move, you literally like won't die, you know. So the stun is very important. The bleed is also good to have. And if you put her on ocean waves with skill ups, right, you can S3. When you take your S2, your ocean wave procs, and then when you cast your S2, you go back, your S3 comes again. If you proc another ocean wave, S2 comes again. So it's an unlimited rotation of S3, S2, which is very, very powerful. Plus, she also has a 40% like attack up as well. So she's a pretty important Esper to skill up, in my opinion. And she's also free.
But do you use her other than Wind Tower?
General content, I guess. Like Cube, I use her.
Ah.
Rift, I use her. Wave content, I use her. In the future, if Anomaly has wave content, I'll also use her. Remember Goat? That period of time? Yeah, Goat was also a period of time where I also use her.
I see. How about Gigi?
Yeah, I think for me, she's like the same tier as Farrah. She is an exceptional AoE unit, the same as Farrah, but the thing that sets them apart is that their Wind and Wind Tower is lacking like AoE damage. So
right.
giving her skill ups will definitely help you significantly in the Wind Tower, which is the hardest, like I said. But outside of that, I don't really use her all that much. But maybe in the future, like Agnes says, she might be useful in like the Celestial Anomaly. But we don't know for sure just yet. So for now, I would say she's in the same tier as Farrah.
Okay, so we agree with Decent?
Can.
Okay, Tolan the Speed King in PvP, but for PvE, I don't think he really needs the skill up at all because you can't really lock a boss, and it's not used in any kind of content, I think. So how do you guys think about Tolan?
No skill up.
Wasteful. Yeah.
Wasteful. Okay.
He's using one content right now. Speed running Fafnir.
Oh, because he does the pursuit, right? On the
No,
it's kind of like a what?
So basically, what the strat is that you clear the wave 1 and wave 2, and then you speed tune your Esper so that Fafnir and his minions take a turn. They kill Tolan. Fafnir gets the 100% damage taken debuff, and then Mateo just one shots him.
Oh, that's kind of cool. That's kind of cool.
It's
But you don't
very,
really
very
need his skill ups, right?
No, you don't need
You
skills.
don't
right?
skip. I see. Right, the Esper that made a lot of players wanted to quit the game or already quit the game, Anna. So Anna can basically solo every kind of PvE content in the game now. Yeah. So how do you guys think about her skill up?
For me, I think she's no rush or decent. I do use her in like I think 2 of the Desolate Lands, and she's pretty good in the Shadow Gale, the Wind one, because she does provide she's one of those units that can provide a very high uptime on the immunity and the crit damage buff up.
Yeah.
So she's kind of filling that support role and also a pseudo DPS. I think I did use her once in like Darkstalker, but it's not really that good. Yeah, those are the only 2 content I use. For early game players, you can max her out to like solo Infinity Tower still, but outside of that, not that much uses. So no rush or decent, I think.
Same for me. I think as much as she is an insanely OP Esper in PvP, if you're looking at PvE, I still have not seen a use for her in Falsetto Fantasy, even as a crit damage buffer, because there are much better Espers out there that can give more buffs and stuff. Like even Mavis herself gives like a 60% crit damage buff already, plus a seer. So she's in the no rush tier for me.
Okay. Alright, Elaine. So Elaine, I mainly use her for Wing Tower for single target damage, and then I use Elaine for like the Falsetto Fantasy, one of the bosses. But other than that, I don't really use Elaine in PvE content. So I would say no rush because her kit is there. So how do you guys think?
Personally, for me, it's important, but yeah, that's just for me because she is like, it's crucial to have her cooldowns very low for Forbiter so that you can stun lock Forbiter. And I do use her in Dark Starlord, but not in like Sonica. So her added damage for Dark Starlord helps a bit, but just the fact that she's like the best stunner for Forbiter makes her a must, an important skill up for me. But yeah, I think that's about it. For me, she's important.
If you're an early game player, don't skill her up for sure.
Yeah.
But if you are a late game player that trying to compete in scoring for Falsetto Fantasy, she is someone that I would skill up. And I did actually like skill her up recently. Because like GGZ says, she is a very strong Forbiter. She's basically the strongest like sleep unit in the game right now, and is very good for Forbiter. It's very good for DSL. I tried to use her in Sonica alongside Xuan Pin because she can remove stun. She is also an Esper that can help you with certain content in Infinity Tower possibly as well. So for a late game player, it's important to skill up.
So okay, I'll agree with that as well. Important here. Alright, the next one, Senya. So Senya I think is very strong in tower content, in Falsetto Fantasy, in other content that you need AP down. Let's say like Infinity Tower as well. Like the AP down, you want stun, you want buffer, you want AP push. Senya have everything in her kit. So I personally I would say her skill is either important or must max. But how do you guys think?
I think that she is a must max, but be warned that she is very expensive to max.
Yeah.
Yeah, same. Either important or must max. Because for early game players, her skill ups is like a cheat code for Infinity Tower. If you can cycle her very well, then you can just AP push them to hell, right? And also if you're end game, she is the best speed buffer and attack buffer in the game because of the 3 turns of attack buff and speed up. So if you do have her at max skilled up, then her uptime for those 2 buffs, which is very important buffs, is going to be 100%. So yeah, either must have or important.
I think we can agree with must max or must max.
Must max.
Okay. Right, Jin Yu Yao. So Jin Yu is able to get for free from the Chronos run, and then I think she mainly shines for PvP content only. And like even Calamity Tower, sometimes you don't even want to use her, but she is useful for Falsetto Fantasy and some of the stages in Infinity Tower. But I don't think the skill up for her is really mattered that much because her kit is already there. So the skill up don't really change much on her kit. So I would say no rush or waste. So how do you guys think?
Same.
Yep, same. I would say she's on the no rush tier.
So you think it's still okay to skill up her?
It's still okay in general because when you are running her in Sonica, for instance, the skill ups on her S2 actually make a huge difference. But if you're looking at like other content, she's only there to like remove debuffs, so it's not very important. So it's very situational, I guess.
Okay. Right, the next one, Lian. So I think Lian is now mainly used in a lot of PvE content because of his unique skill kit, able to let the ally assist 100% rate with like all those attack buff increase, crit damage buff increase, and I think the S3 skill up is very important. If you want Lian to be a sub DPS as well, I think the passive is also important, the S1 is also important. So I would say Lian is either important or must max. So how do you guys think?
GGZ?
For me, it's 100% must max because he's not only useful in PvE, he's also very good in PvP as well. So in PvE, I think I use him everywhere, like literally everywhere. In Infinity Tower, I use him for like the fastest Infinity Tower 10 that I've cleared. In the Flow Tower, I do use him. In Desolate Lands, I use it for all four bosses. Even in the normal mode, you can't really use him in the hard mode, but in Andras, I use him. In all of the Falsa to Fantasy bosses, I do use him, and he's one of the best point booster in the game that we currently have, because he just pairs up so well with like every other DPS, and you need his S3 to be maxed out for him to be at maximum capacity. And like Artiar said, if you do use him as a DPS, then you should max out his S1 and S2 as well. So yeah, must max.
I agree with GGZ, and the fact that like for Artiar, when one of Artiar's videos where he showed the Lian R0 Sonica showcase, maxing out his S1 and S2 is not a waste either. You just basically push so much damage on Liam himself that it's totally not a waste. His S2 gives him like 50% crit rate. You basically only need to gear for like plus 40%. It's actually like really good to push him all the way to the max if you can, definitely. And he is being used in every single, like, so many content in the game. He is being paired with so many good S1 units. Embla, Tang Xuan, Heather. So in my opinion, he is a 100% max.
Yep,
Also,
agreed.
this is very important. If you are using him for Andras, then you might not want to skill up his S2, because then he starts critting. So yeah, just keep that in mind if you are using for Andras.
I see. Okay, the last one, which is our newest Esper as well, which is Haley. Personally, I think Haley doesn't need a skill up because her main reason in your team is just sharing the her own kit, and then the skilling up on her increase the damage, which I don't think is a important thing. Maybe if you really want to skill her up, it's just mainly for her S3, but I don't think it's really that necessary, so I think it will be a no rush. But how do you guys think about it?
For me, it's a no rush or decent, because her S3 does provide a seer debuff. So if you do have it maxed out, then she could have a higher uptime on that. And also, if you are running a multiple DPS comp, then you kind of want her to spam the S3 as much as possible to give the set effects to other DPS as well. Currently, she's only being used like in like a solo DPS comps, not so much in like a duo DPS comps. So you only need her to cast the S3 once, but in the future, then we might be seeing her in like a multiple DPS comp. Then she could be useful with the additional skill ups on the S3. So yeah, decent or no rush.
I would say it's I have the same feeling. Decent or no rush. Right now, at least, I wouldn't want her to cycle S3 too much. In certain content that I am doing. Like for instance, Sonica, I'm running her on relief. So cycling more S3 equals to giving more people relief, and it takes away the relief from like Renzi. So sometimes in this case, I might not want to scale her up because of this reason. But there are also other situations where like I'm running her in like certain multiple DPS comps. So I want to spread out debuffs. But that's for a later discussion for sure.
So I think we agree mostly is on no rush or decent.
Yeah,
If we compare with other Esper.
I think it's decent.
I think it's decent, yeah.
Decent. Alright.
There's really no reason to really level up her. And from what I remember, or what I'm like checking, I guess, her skill ups are also quite expensive. Because right, like her skill ups are like what? It's a 4-4-4 basically.
Yeah.
And everything is only increasing damage. There is no increase in trigger chance, there's no increase in anything.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Yeah.
Because like her defense break is already 100%, her seer is already at 100%. You don't really need it to skill up.
Yeah. So it's not that big of a deal, I guess.
Okay, so that's all for the legendary Esper, and so this will be the final tier list. But so let's take a look here. Is there anything you guys think will like have some changes after all those discussion from the whole tier list here?
Yeah, I think it's already okay. Maybe I'm still kind of skeptical about like Valeria being in no rush. I don't know, because we can't really. I haven't tested her out with R2 Liam, whether she's good or not. But yeah, I think that's the only thing. Either she's decent or yeah.
So
That's it.
consideration is like maybe Valeria can go up to decent.
Yeah, I think that's the only thing.
Acne?
I think taking a look at this, is really nothing.
Nothing
like,
much to change.
I would like to change. I was still contemplating whether I want to put like, Fatum Sisters down a tier though. Even though I did say she's really good and I'm a big supporter, but after like thinking about it, there are definitely other espers that are better than what she does. She does give a lot of things, but there are also other espers that are better. But I think having her at the Mass Max tier, especially for like R2, right, I think is pretty substantial.
Yep, I pretty much agree everything. Just I think Nusi can be Mass Max because I don't have her. Right. So I think that's all for the legendary ability mon tier list, purely PvE. So if you guys who are watching the video now and you guys think why the tier list looks like this, because we don't really consider PvP in this tier list. So if you guys want for like a general one, that will be another video, not this one. This one is mainly just for PvE. So if you are a player who mainly just enjoy PvE, which I think that most of you guys are enjoying PvE mostly, because I saw you guys suffering in RTA, right? Right, so hope you guys enjoy the video, and very thank you to Acne and Gigi spending their time to like having this discussion about the ability mon tier list. Right, really thank you to you two to spend the time out. And yeah, I think that's all. Anything else you two want to like say out more?
Thanks for inviting me. I know I've been kind of inactive in the game, but I'm still playing it. So yeah, that's about it. I think just thanks for having me, and that's it.
That's it. Acne?
Yeah,
No?
thanks for having me again as well. I think I think from a general free to play perspective, save your ability points. Don't spend them if you don't need to. They are very rare.
Yeah, spend wisely.
Yeah, spend very wisely.
Right, so hope the one that who just skip through the whole thing until the back here, actually you can use the timestamp to like check back out why did we have our final decision for that tier. If you found out your favorite esper is not on the Mass Max tier, something like this, right?
Yeah, like Ife.
Yeah, like Ife, maybe Ife is a Mass Max tier, you know, but we have some discussion and then we put it at the bottom here. Right, so hope you guys enjoy the video and see you guys in the next video. Bye bye.
Wow.
Yep. Bye bye.
Bye bye.